The river flowed through the heart of the town like a shimmering ribbon, its waters sparkling under the sun. It was more than just a body of water. It was the lifeblood of the community. Children played by its banks, skipping stones and catching fish, while adults relied on it for transportation and trade. Boats glided over its surface, carrying goods from one side to the other, connecting families and friends. The river was where stories were shared and laughter echoed, making it an essential part of daily life. Every spring, as the snow melted in the mountains, the river swelled with fresh water, supplying farmers with necessary irrigation for their crops. In the summer, townsfolk gathered for picnics along its shores, creating lasting memories in its gentle embrace. But with every season, the river remained unpredictable. It could be serene one moment and fierce the next. However, on this particular winter day, everything changed. A sudden cold snap gripped the town, freezing the river mid-current. The familiar sight of flowing water was replaced by a glistening sheet of ice. The townspeople stared in disbelief as their beloved river transformed into something foreign and strange. It was a sight they had never seen before, leading to uncertainty about what lay ahead. Little did they know that this freeze would change their lives and bring unexpected challenges to the forefront. As winter settled over the town, the air grew crisp and biting. The skies were gray, filled with heavy clouds that promised snow but delivered only cold winds. Days turned into weeks of relentless chill, and the townspeople bundled up in their warmest clothes, huddling by fires to escape the cold. Despite the dreary weather, they held on to their daily routines, but a sense of unease began to creep in as temperatures plummeted. One morning, as the sun barely peeked through the thick clouds, a hush fell over the town. People stepped outside to find a strange sight. The river had frozen mid-current, its waters captured in time. What was once a lively flow of sparkling blue turned into a solid mass of ice, shimmering eerily under the weak winter sun. Gasps echoed along the riverbank as children pointed and adults stared in disbelief. They had never seen anything like this before. Whispers spread quickly as families gathered to witness the unusual freeze. Some felt excitement, believing it was an opportunity for winter fun, while others felt worry, fearing what this sudden change could mean for their livelihoods. The mood shifted from wonder to concern as fishermen and farmers began to contemplate how they would manage without the flowing water that had always sustained them. Uncertainty hung in the air like the frost on the branches above, marking the beginning of a challenging season ahead. Among the townspeople was a clever and resourceful ferryman named Eli. With a weathered face and eyes that sparkled with mischief, he had spent years navigating the river, helping people cross for a small fee. His boat, once a familiar sight gliding over the water, now lay abandoned at the shore, its purpose lost to the frozen landscape. As he observed the townsfolk's mixed reactions to the icy transformation, an idea began to form in his mind. Eli saw an opportunity amidst the chaos. The river's freeze created a unique situation he could exploit. Instead of waiting for spring to restore normalcy, he envisioned a different kind of business. With a sly grin, he set out to sell access to the ice itself. He gathered tools and marked off safe paths on the frozen surface, creating makeshift routes for those eager to cross or simply explore. Word spread quickly as Eli announced his new venture. Footsteps sold by the inch. Some townspeople were hesitant, worried about safety, but others were lured by the promise of adventure and excitement. Families began lining up, eager to experience walking on the ice firsthand. For Eli, this was not just a way to earn money. It was a chance to seize control of an unexpected circumstance and turn it into profit. The ferryman chuckled to himself, knowing that he might soon become the most popular man in town. Eli wasted no time putting his plan into action. With a bright orange flag marking the entrance to his newly established business, he shouted, "Step right up, walk on ice for just a penny an inch." His voice rang out across the frozen expanse, drawing curious glances from the townspeople. A few brave souls approached hesitantly, eyeing the shiny ice with wonder and trepidation. With each customer that stepped onto the ice, Eli measured their progress with a wooden stick, happily counting pennies as they took their first steps. As news spread about this exciting opportunity, lines began to form along the riverbank. Families bundled in heavy coats and scarves eagerly waited their turn, children giggling with anticipation. They exchanged stories of who would walk furthest and who could balance best as they shuffled forward. Eli capitalized on the excitement, adding little games and challenges, like timing races or offering rewards for the bravest walker. The air was filled with laughter and cheers as people shared their newfound adventure. The ferryman smiled widely, watching as groups of friends ventured further out onto the ice, their worries momentarily forgotten. This new venture not only brought in coins but also transformed the once quiet river into a lively winter playground, something Eli longed for the community to experience together. As townspeople stepped onto the ice, a thrill coursed through them, mixing joy and a hint of fear. Each footfall produced a satisfying crackle, echoing in the stillness of winter. Children squealed with delight as they wobbled and slid, discovering the joy of gliding on the frozen surface. Their laughter mingled with shouts of encouragement from parents, creating an atmosphere filled with excitement. Groups formed as friends competed to see who could walk the farthest without slipping. They shared tales of previous winters spent by the river, recounting adventures of fishing and skipping stones, all now replaced by this new, exhilarating experience. "I bet you can't reach that big rock over there," shouted one boy, pointing towards a distant landmark, while his friends giggled nervously. As they ventured further out, everyone exchanged stories and advice, bonding over shared laughter and minor tumbles. Eli watched from the shore, grinning as he saw the sense of community grow stronger with every step taken on the ice. Strangers became friends, their worries melting away like the snow as they embraced the joys of adventure together. The once ordinary river had become a stage for laughter and camaraderie, reminding all who walked upon it that life was best enjoyed with others by their side. It was a winter to remember, full of unexpected thrills and lasting connections. As the days turned into weeks, Eli's ice-walking business flourished, with lines of eager customers stretching down the riverbank. Coins clinked in his pockets as he reveled in the success of his venture. However, beneath the surface of this newfound prosperity lay a growing sense of unease among some townspeople. The thrill of adventure was tinged with worry. Parents watched nervously as their children ventured onto the thin ice, and whispers began to circulate about safety concerns. Rumors spread that sections of the ice were beginning to crack under the weight of so many people. Some began to question whether Eli was prioritizing profit over safety, and a dark cloud began to form over his cheerful enterprise. Eli sensed the tension but chose to ignore it, caught up in the excitement and money flowing through his hands. Yet, guilt gnawed at him during quiet moments. He couldn't shake the thought that he might be putting families at risk for his own gain. Despite the laughter ringing in his ears, he was painfully aware that one wrong move could lead to disaster. As more townsfolk voiced their concerns, Eli faced a moral crossroads. Should he continue profiting from this risky venture, or take responsibility for the safety of those he had drawn onto the ice? The weight of his choices loomed heavily on him, threatening to overshadow what had once been a joyful winter adventure. As the days grew longer, subtle changes in the weather began to hint at an imminent thaw. The once biting cold relaxed its grip, and the air felt slightly warmer, carrying with it a softness that didn't belong in the heart of winter. Icicles hanging from rooftops started to drip, creating tiny puddles that glimmered in the sunlight, and the townspeople could feel a shift in the atmosphere. Concern mounted as whispers of melting ice circulated among families. "What if the ice can't hold everyone?" worried parents asked, their eyes darting nervously to the river. Children who had once run onto the ice with glee now hesitated, peering anxiously at their friends who dared to venture out further. The air, once filled with laughter and excitement, now crackled with anxiety as uncertainty replaced joy. Eli noticed the tension as he counted his earnings. Every clink of coin felt heavier, echoing with the doubts of his neighbors. He tried to dismiss their fears, convincing himself that the ice was still strong enough to support those who walked on it. Yet deep down, he knew that ignoring the warnings could lead to disaster. The thrill of profit started to pale against the weight of potential consequences. creating a storm of worry inside him and casting shadows on the once bright adventure that brought his community together. One crisp morning, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a bright warmth over the river. As the temperature rose, ominous cracking sounds began to echo across the ice. It started as a faint pop, but quickly escalated to loud fissures that reverberated like thunder, sending chills down the spines of those walking on the surface. Panic erupted among the townspeople as they registered the danger. "Get off the ice!" a mother shouted, her voice laced with fear as she grabbed her child's hand and hurried back toward the shore. Nearby, children who had been laughing just moments ago now screamed in terror, slipping and scrambling to find solid ground. The ice trembled beneath their feet, and cracks expanded like hungry mouths threatening to swallow them whole. Eli rushed from his post by the entrance, his heart pounding in his chest. "Stay calm. Everyone, move towards the edges," he yelled, desperately trying to guide people to safety. He waved his arms, urging others to follow his lead, but the rising sense of panic made it hard for anyone to think clearly. As he watched customers flee in all directions, fear gripped him. This was not just a business now, it was a fight for safety. The thrill he once reveled in crumbled beneath the weight of reality, and he knew he had to take charge before chaos consumed the scene. Eli's stomach churned with dread as he realized that his decisions had now put lives at risk. Then, without warning, the ice gave way with a deafening crack that echoed through the air. A section of the river collapsed, sending a wave of chaos rippling outward as people fell into the frigid water below. Screams filled the air as panic surged among those still on the ice, and others rushed to the edge, helplessly watching their friends and family struggle. Eli's heart dropped, and he instinctively leaped into action. "Grab a rope!" he shouted to anyone nearby, his voice cutting through the cacophony. Several brave townspeople dashed to help, quickly forming a human chain along the riverbank. Meanwhile, others tossed ropes and branches toward those who had fallen into the icy water. "Hold on! We're coming!" shouted one man as he reached out to a young girl clinging to a piece of floating ice. With hands trembling but determined, he managed to grasp her wrist, pulling her closer to safety while encouraging her to kick her legs. In that moment of crisis, fear transformed into courage as neighbors helped each other with no regard for their own safety. Eli worked tirelessly, coordinating efforts and offering encouragement. As more townspeople jumped in to assist, they pulled survivors from the freezing waters one by one. The scene was chaotic but filled with acts of heroism that reminded everyone of their deep bonds within this tight-knit community, even in their darkest hour. In the aftermath of the thaw, the ice that had once brought together the community now lay in shattered fragments along the riverbank. The cold remnants of winter melted away, exposing the flowing water beneath, a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded just days earlier. As the townspeople picked up the pieces, they reflected on their experiences and the fragility of life. Eli stood by the banks, watching families reunite and share their relief. The joy of surviving was palpable, yet a sense of loss shadowed him. He realized the profits he had amassed during those thrilling weeks now seemed hollow. The thrill of gaining wealth could not outweigh the worry he felt knowing he had put lives at risk for a few coins. The townspeople engaged in quiet conversations, acknowledging how greed and excitement had clouded their judgment. They understood now that safety should have been the priority over profit and adventure. As Eli listened, he felt a heavy weight of understanding settle on his shoulders. He too had learned a valuable lesson about responsibility. While the river flowed again, it served as a reminder of their bonds and an opportunity for renewal. Eli vowed to honor this lesson, promising himself to prioritize his community's safety in all future endeavors. From then on, he would be not just a ferryman but a protector, one who would bridge gaps responsibly, ensuring that joy would always come without peril. As the river flowed freely once more, the town began to heal from the scars of chaos. The icy remnants that had caused so much fear now served as a powerful reminder of what truly mattered. The people gathered along the banks, sharing stories of bravery and unity, reflecting on how they had come together in the face of adversity. Eli stood among them, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The experience had taught him that while adventure and excitement are valuable, they should never come at the expense of safety and community. Nature, in its unpredictable ways, had revealed the delicate balance between joy and caution, reminding everyone that life is often fragile. The bond forged through their shared struggle strengthened the town's spirit. Families were more connected, neighbors reached out to one another, and laughter filled the air once again, this time tinged with deeper appreciation for each moment. Eli realized that he was not just a ferryman. He was a vital part of this community, tasked with ensuring that joy could flourish alongside responsibility. As spring approached and flowers began to bloom, the townspeople promised to cherish their connections and prioritize safety in all things. With gratitude in their hearts, they embraced the lessons learned, knowing that true wealth lies not in profit, but in the bonds they share and the love they have for one another.